Come on back, Chris. Come on back. You've got it. About 5 feet to the driver's side. A little bit more. Now straighten it up. There you go. Straighten it up. You got 3 feet. A little bit to the passenger side. 2. 1 foot. That's good. Stop. Lock it down.
You've arrived. It's the Riveted with Chris and Gina. It is always fun, Gina, to reconnect with Airstream friends that we met because of Airstream.
Yes, it is. Always fun.
Yes. So with the power of technology and staying connected and all that good stuff, we've got some guests today that we're excited to reconnect with. We met them at a very cool, unique Airstream event a few years back, and just so glad to have them on the podcast. Right, Gina?
Yes.
So
it was one of our, I just want to say real quick, one of the events that we attended with them was a really cool event we've got to share today.
All of it. Yeah,
Yes.
We're going to talk about all of it. But this couple listener is veteran Airstreamers. They have done it all. They've traveled all 50 states. They have held rallies. They have attended many rallies. They've owned multiple Airstreams. They're super passionate about the brand. They're from the wonderful, great state of Ohio, which is the home state of Airstream Incorporated. And we're glad to have them on the podcast. Kristen and Shane, welcome to the Riveted with Chris and Gina.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So excited to be here.
We're glad you're here.
Yeah, it was. I'm glad that we were able to reconnect and have you on.
Yes.
Yes, this is fun. We're looking forward to this.
Good. We remember meeting you guys. That was like a whirlwind of 10 days or however long it was back a few years back when we came up to Ohio for the grand opening of the Heritage Center at the factory in Jackson Center. And then we also discovered this cool urban rally that the region was doing in Worcester, Ohio. How do you say that? How do you say it properly?
Worcester.
Worcester.
Yeah, see, that's
Worcester.
what I thought it was, yeah. And that entire trip for us was just awesome. And we hope you guys had as much fun as we did. But that's where we met you and just remembered hanging out for those events, and glad we're able to have you on our podcast now.
Yeah, we're excited. That was a cool event. I think that was our third kind of like urban.
The Worcester, Ohio.
Yeah, urban setting. Y'all were kitty corner from us, but they put us right in front of the Mexican restaurant, which was kind of cool because then we had those cups we could just go get little margaritas in and just walk around town.
Yeah.
So that's my kind of rally right there.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was the first place that I had experienced one of those outdoor, what do they call them, like an outdoor entertainment district or whatever, where you can actually walk around with an open beverage. And it was neat. You know,
that's pretty cool.
That
the
town,
Dora Cup, I think they call that the Dora Cup.
That's it.
That's
Yes.
exactly what it was.
Good
Yeah.
memory.
Yep.
Yeah.
She has a collection of them.
Yeah.
Now listen, y'all didn't say you were going to tell all of our secrets.
Well, that was a great rally. I mean, we felt like outsiders, obviously, in a way, because we're not really part of that region's part of the club. However, you know, everybody welcomed us, and
I didn't feel like an outsider.
Well, I mean, like we didn't know as many people.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but the thing that was cool for Gina and I was we had been through that town prior to that event, and it was just pure by chance that we were traveling towards eastern Pennsylvania, and we saw that fairgrounds allowed RV parking, and we stopped in for a couple nights as like a respite, and hung out in Worcester and really had a lot of fun. And then when we saw that they were doing the rally there, we're like, that's a definite. We got to go back.
Yeah, we got to go back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was great. Worcester's a great town. I would encourage anybody that's not been through there, even if you're not doing, you know, what we were doing there, camping on the street, but just have the opportunity to come through. They have a great college there and beautiful campus to walk, and just great downtown to walk through, great shops and good food and just a cool old place.
They do have two unique things real quick we'll talk about. One is we were right across the street from an Italian restaurant, And the gentleman was up in age, so this has been a few years ago, and
The owner.
hopefully he's still there. But he had a little Italian restaurant that we watched him set up and close down every day, and that was amazing. We did go there and eat; it was good. And then the other unique thing I liked about it was it's the first time, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, that it was a 3-story or 4-story Ace Hardware. Is that what it
There's
was?
3 stories, I think.
In the old Rubbermaid or Tupper
Yeah.
Rubbermaid
Yep.
Manufacturing facility. That was so cool to see that. The first time we went, it was still under construction. Then we went back and we were there for the rally.
It was
We
open.
got to go in and we actually got some knives sharpened there and some other things and got to experience it. And it was the coolest thing.
Yeah. How far is Worcester from where you guys live?
45 minutes.
Oh, so not far at all then.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Nope, about 45 minutes, real close. In fact, my son plays in some tennis tournaments and stuff over there. So we
Nice.
travel to Worcester a couple times a year for sure.
That's cool. Well, Ohio is beautiful and all those, I wouldn't describe it as a small town. I mean, Worcester's small compared to Cincinnati, obviously, but it's still very, very cool town.
It's unique.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's lots of those kind of towns around where you are.
It's
So
hilly.
Absolutely.
It's very hilly around there.
Yeah.
it was.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
real pretty.
Yeah.
Real pretty.
So we always like to start out our conversation just asking so that the listeners can hear, obviously, how you guys became Airstreamers. Like where you were in life to cause you to say, honey, I think I want to get an Airstreamer. Like what caused that to happen, and what your entry point is, that sort of thing. So share that with us a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'll start and then I'll let Shane kind of talk a little bit about just how we actually got an Airstream. But we started with a road trip. I think our son is now 16, almost 17, and I think he was 3 at the time. And we did this big trip, stopped in many states, worked our way down to Dallas to see family, and we loved it. We loved like the road trip factor of it. At that point, we could only have one son, and we decided that, like, hey, a small family, like we travel really well together, that sort of thing. So we piled into the Subaru and we took off. But what we hated about it was hauling luggage in and out.
The hotels.
The hotels, it was just like this labor intensive process.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh man, like road tripping and stopping. We actually downloaded the Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives app, and we stopped at all these
That's cool.
barbecue joints and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And really good for taste, not so good for body shape, but a lot of fun nevertheless. So but we loved it. We had a great time. And then we came back from that and we said, okay, like we want to do this, but we want to do it a little differently. So in true Kristen Shane fashion, we literally started shopping for an RV like that next day.
Yeah, I think the trip was in 2011 to Dallas, and so it was in the following year in 2012 that we made our first purchase, which wasn't an Airstream. We were thinking small motorhome, something easy. Neither one of us had ever camped or had zero knowledge of, any kind of RV, whether towable or not. I had some previous history with Toyota vehicles. So we found a Toyota motorhome. I think it was 21 feet from bumper to bumper, which seems big, but when you realize the actual living space was only about 12 feet of that 21 feet. You don't know those things until you try it.
Yeah.
Right.
But we bought that. It was
Those
really
rigs,
good shape.
those rigs are rare, right? Like you.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was cool.
It's kind of a cult following, at least in 2012 was our experience. I think it was a Yahoo forum group that I learned some things, but we planned our first trip after buying that, which was about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We left last week of March and the first week of April, and our first trip ever, we headed out. My parents wintered over in Phoenix area in Arizona. So we worked, I think, 3 days out to them, visited for a day or two, and then continued and visited Grand Canyon, Hoover Dam.
Yep.
then we went into Utah.
Did Arches and
Bryce and Zion.
Wow.
Zion, yeah. We literally don't do anything small. Like we're like, hey, we should do this, and then we're like on the road for 2 weeks on the other side of the country. So it's like sometimes I think back, I think, what were we thinking?
Oh, we had a blast.
That's that.
That's good.
But
that's that Airstream adventure spirit, though, right?
Yeah.
Right. And we loved the travel, the places we got to go, and realized that, a campground on Lake Mead after visiting Hoover Dam,
awesome.
There were no hotels or, accommodations. If you didn't have your RV, you weren't going to stay in some of these spots. In Colorado, we were on the bank of the Colorado River, just off of Interstate 70. There were some downsides. It was small. I had to walk, I think, on top of Kristen's bed at night in order to get to the cab over. And I slept with them there.
Well, we had a toddler, but we also had like a 6-month-old puppy with us. Yeah. So I was on the couch folded down with the puppy. And I'll never forget, because we pulled up to the Hoover Dam and this guy got out, and it was a really nice car. And we opened up the door, and like several of us just came out like we were in a clown car. And he was like, took one look at me and he said, "Oh, that's adventurous." And I was like, he just couldn't get it, But we couldn't shut the bathroom door when you're in there going to the bathroom. So like the door was always hanging open if you were going to the bathroom. The shower was loaded with clothes, and our 3-year-old pretty quickly started growing, and so did the puppy. And we're like, okay, this is not going to work. This is not going to work.
Yep.
So get back from that trip. We made the decision we need something a little bigger. And so we started, what are our options? Do we want a bigger, drivable motorhome of some sort? Do we want a travel trailer that we can tow? And I figured, well, let's sell that Toyota motorhome, because we needed to kind of liquidate and get the cash from that for whatever we buy next. So we did that successfully, actually, through eBay, which was great. We ended up, it was a positive experience. We made money on that.
That's cool. Yeah.
And so we headed out to Akron area, where it's a large, nationwide RV dealer today. At the time, it was still privately held, but they had that inventory of travel trailers. And so we started looking, and we were used only, because that's what was within budget. And we just remember the salesman. They had a whole row, I don't know, a dozen trailers or so that were against the fence. And we said, well, what about those? He said, oh, those have soft floors. And
he said, just don't go over there. They all have soft floors. And I was like, what's
soft floors?
They're not that old. What's going on?
Yeah. Wow. What's a soft floor? They explained, well, water damage had led to, rot or some issue with the flooring. And so everything used that we saw, nothing really fit with what we were looking for. And we were kind of disappointed. As we left there, we had looked on Craigslist at the time.
Yeah. Well, one thing that disappointed us, just to go full circle on that, was the Toyota, albeit small, super clean, but it was super well made. And so it had like great cabinets in it. You just felt like things were made with like really high quality, which I know kind of sounds surprising for those little tiny trucks. But then we went into some of these other brands, and nothing against them, because I mean, they're just, I understand why people get them because of space and other things, but like, it just didn't feel the same for me, like opening and closing cabinets and that sort of thing. And we just were, I don't know, you just get that feeling like this just doesn't feel right.
Yep.
And then we saw this one on Craigslist.
Yeah. In the area, probably within half hour less drive. So I think Kristen called and said, hey, we're in the area. Can we stop by? And, just a couple private owners. And it was a 1989 32-foot Airstream Excella. And again, we no prior knowledge of Airstreams, except people seem to like them. Yeah, they look cool. Hey, they're shiny.
Yeah, they're cool.
And we pulled in, and this was in their front yard underneath pine trees, and had been sitting there for the last year. So it did not show well from the exterior, but it was very different when we got inside, and especially what we had just experienced at that dealership with all these other used brands. That's where we started kind of realizing there's something to these trailers. Just the overall feel. There was a lot of light coming in. Oak cabinetry in this particular one. So we looked at it, came home, talked about it, called back, ended up making an offer, and bought it. needed a lot.
Yeah, I wasn't sure Shane was going to be. He's like, he went up and got it, and I thought, oh my gosh, is it even safe to drive home on those tires? You know, like,
Oh, wow.
it
Yeah.
looked bad. It looked really bad. Yeah, it looked sketchy, but he made it home, and then we started making some improvements to it for sure. So
So that was the first Airstream. That's how we kind of transitioned into something different.
You know what's interesting about that story that I pick up on is the, like you went to a dealership that sold RVs, you know, as a business, and the stuff that they had there pre-owned you weren't satisfied with. They had other stuff that they admitted that the floors were soft in, and then you ended up looking at an Airstream that had been sitting under a pine tree for a year, and you could just immediately, and it was an 89 even, you know, in 2012, and you still could tell the difference with that than what you just looked at a professional dealership. And that just goes to show what, you know, Airstream will provide over all these years, you know.
Well, it just shows the strength of their bones too.
Yeah.
This one, it was in good, I call it good-ish shape, but it hadn't really been like kind of loved the way that we love our Airstreams. And so even with that, you know, it did need some stuff, but you walked in and you could just feel like the quality there. There was a lot of mauve. Had to come
Oh,
off
I
the
bet.
walls.
89?
There was a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on in there that we had to change. You know, we reupholstered everything and, you know, replaced a lot and that sort of thing. But it just felt good. You know, it felt like we like old homes. We like older cars. It just felt really good being in there. We loved that thing. It was a great rig.
Very cool. Yeah. I think I might, I always try to listen to the episode to think what I could use for the title of the episode, and I think I just got it. It was a lot of mauve.
Definitely it's mauve, but that's your thing, but it ain't mine. So
it didn't stay that way for long.
No, it didn't. I turned it into a little beach house on wheels.
Yeah,
I always say to
cool.
Shane, when are we buying our beach house? He says, "Oh, honey, I just bought you.
That's
you get
awesome.
to tow it wherever you want."
Yeah. So how long did you keep the 89?
So that was 5 years, and 32 feet. And again, we didn't have the Airstream knowledge going into that one, but then during that 5-year period, you know, as you would go to a campground and you know, get backed into your site, all of a sudden you might see one other one in the campground and you start meeting other Airstreamers, or we tend to first rally. You know, the knowledge gained quickly in those first few years. We started figuring some things out, and we had an opportunity. We downsized our home. We went from, you know, 10.5 acres. We had a large barn we could keep the trailer in, out of the weather when we weren't traveling. We decided during that downsizing and selling the home that, hey, let's go ahead and sell this trailer. And we decided either a 23 or 25 foot trailer. We wanted to go essentially as small as we could, but big enough to accommodate the three of us plus the dog.
Yeah.
And we sold that in March of 17. And I don't think we got our next one until December of that year. But we used that time to shop. You know, went down to our closest dealer, Columbus area, looked at inventory. We ruled out the 23 foot length. That just would have been a little tight. Found the 25 was probably better. We were still looking used though. And that became probably the bigger delay, was trying to find something that we liked that kind of checked all the right boxes used in that 25 foot length.
Yeah.
And that happened this December of that year, December of 17.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that.
is that that's the one you have now?
No.
It just keeps getting better.
Keeps getting
better and better.
We're in this continuous improvement model all the time.
That's
all the
awesome.
time.
Yeah. The 25 is a great length.
That's an awesome length. Yeah.
And we really feel that sweet spot is probably 25, 27, maybe 28.
So what did you get in the 25? What trim?
So it was a 2002. So not, you know, definitely newer than what we had with the 89. But
Yeah.
we're still not today's offerings, but it was a classic.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'll say still a little dated in 2002.
Yep.
Oak cabinets.
Yeah. We updated it.
One of the winners, we pulled it into, thankfully, at the next house we moved to, we had a garage big enough we could keep it in. And I pulled the interior out. We painted cabinets, which purists.
I know. We probably broke some rules.
It was a beautiful Airstream. It was a one owner dealership up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, took it on consignment. People probably cringe because we customized and made it ours. But the one thing we could never, well, I shouldn't say we couldn't have done it, but we always talked about, because we had the front couch, and that was when you have people into your rig and you're visiting, it's hard to have conversation because everybody's sitting on the couch in a row.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
like,
you got
it's like a prison lineup, you know what I mean? Like, it's like hard to talk when you're prison lineup.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it just didn't.
You could put one.
Conducive.
You could put one chair in the middle of the floor, and when someone gets ready to talk, they have to rotate chairs. So one goes to the chair and one goes to the couch.
Well, we had a little footstool. You know how it is when you got a camper. We had a footstool that had our shoes in it. That was also my chair. So when we flipped the table out, the two of them would sit there and I would sit on the other side, and it was fine. But we, as you know, we go to rallies and you have bad weather and you're hanging out with people. It's just like this is not going to be our long-term setup.
And we talked about, hey, we've altered the interior already. We removed cabinetry. We pulled the oven out, for example. I had a couple doors made that I installed for additional cabinetry space. We moved the location of the microwave above the refrigerator. So we customized quite a bit, and we weren't afraid of maybe creating some type of banquette style seating in that front to give us something other than the couch. We were talking about, hey, maybe we invest in solar and lithium for this battery, because as we traveled more, we started realizing we like the independence of, boondocking and, being able to park anywhere and stay comfortably. But as we started talking about all these different things we would do to the trailer, we kind of paused and said, maybe it would make more sense to see if we can sell this one and look for the next one that already has some of these things versus all these changes.
Well, and we still travel with our son. He's in high school, and at the time, that was several years ago now, so he was, at kind of the end of middle school, and he's sleeping on the couch. And so every night we're flipping that couch out, and that was the other thing that was in the back of our mind is like, listen, we're not going to be empty nesters anytime soon. We have a dog. And so before we make all these improvements, like maybe we should really consider this. And it couldn't have gone to a nicer gentleman. He was so excited about that rig, and it was his first Airstream, and he was a recent widow, and was going to bring his motorcycle along. And he was just really excited to kind of have the next chapter of his life. And
that's awesome.
It was something that they had always wanted to do together, and they didn't. And so when he reached out to us about it, we felt like it was going to the right home. And we felt that all along when we've made these transactions, is like, oh yeah, this is the right person for this rig right now, if it's no longer us.
Well, let me ask you something there. So you had the 25 and you were remodeling it, but you did travel in it before you started the remodel, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that a little bit. Okay. So you did get to enjoy it for a while. You just, okay.
As is. I feel like we probably used it the first 2 years.
We completed all 50 states in that, right? Well, except for the last two that we drove to.
Yeah.
Or flew to. Yeah.
Yeah. We had Alaska as one of those states to get to. So that involved an Alaskan cruise. And so we flew to Seattle for that particular cruise. And that was the opportunity. We sold the 25-foot Airstream
before that trip.
Yeah, before that trip, knowing, hey, this summer we're going on an Alaskan cruise. And when we get back, we rented a car, and then we Airbnb throughout Oregon and then back into Washington State, which completed the 50 states for us. So we had a gap, and what worked out well was in 2023 that we got back from the cruise. Dealers were starting to have inventory again post-COVID.
Right.
And we were able to stop at 2 dealerships, one Seattle area, and then the other in Portland. And it was amazing to us because we got to kind of tire kick a lot of different models.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what started out of us thinking maybe another 25 or 27 Globetrotter.
Yeah, we were looking at Globetrotter.
International, I think, were the two.
Yep.
We actually, and that's not what we bought.
Yeah.
So,
long story short, that's not what we don't have either though. So
yeah.
we have a 30-foot flying cloud bunk.
Oh, very cool.
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it was.
I had a question that I wanted to ask as Gina was asking about you traveling into 25. And I think I already know the answer to this now that you've said that. But like, was there any moment in time, like when you decided to sell your 25-foot and like you were doing the Alaska trip or, you know, doing the car travel in some of the other states and stuff? Was there any moment in time where you thought, well, let's look at some other brands besides Airstream? Or was it?
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
We considered, we make an interstate work.
Yeah.
So maybe moving away from travel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But space kind of became the issue again with the three of us plus the dog.
Yeah.
And the
just not a
son
good
that's
sleeper
growing.
package.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was, I'll say, with looking at interstates, I would occasionally, hey, Kristen, take a look at this Class C something or another. And she wouldn't talk to me for the next week.
Yeah, I mean, it's just never going to happen is the answer.
Okay,
so,
well, that's
we've made too many friends.
Yeah.
We love our local club. I mean, we you know, so many of your guests have said this, but like Airstreaming for us is, yes, it's about the trailer, but more than anything, it's about the community.
Mhm.
And I said to him, because we were like talking about getting an adventure wagon, like he mentioned before, just to even go to like tennis tournaments and some of those other things. Like, hey, can we just get like, and I said, sure, as long as it's got an Airstream badge on it. And he's like, oh, brother. So, you know, I mean, it's just, not even a consideration.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
So your 2021 Flying Cloud bunk, 30 bunk, you got it new?
No, we used.
Yeah.
And that's a common theme for us for the most part, whether it's cars or trailers. We've had great success. Something else, and you probably covered this with other guests, but resale value with Airstreams for us has been great.
Yeah.
Feel like even, you know, the improvements we've made and some additional costs, you know, that we've had in them when we've sold, we've pretty much broke even on some of those transactions, which has been really nice. With this one, again, I knew I wanted to go solar and lithium to have the additional, you know, boondocking capabilities. So I started looking used, and we did look new. We actually were close to looking at buying, you know, and I was contacting dealers throughout the country. But this one that we bought came up, private owner that bought it originally. They were in not Dallas area, closer to San Antonio maybe, but inquired about it, ended up having a telephone conversation. And the way I jokingly tell people, you know, there's folks that, you know, they start learning about something, they'll go down that rabbit hole. And he did a great job, like figuring out what are all the worthwhile aftermarket modifications that one would want to do with an Airstream. And he did a lot of them. And it's stuff that, you know, I had on my list, plus some that I wasn't aware of that he had already done. So we found this trailer, and the only reason he was selling was they have two teenage children. The new, at that time, 24 30-foot bunk. They changed the bunk from a single to a kind of a double configuration.
So there's a double on the bottom and a double up top, and ours has the single up top. So they wanted two big spaces for their kids.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, you know, he'd upgrade 16-inch wheel and tire package, put a 3-inch lift on it, which our experience with the 32-foot trailer, the one thing that I disliked towing was we would drag the rear end.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't take a lot.
A lot, yeah.
And now with the 30 with the 3-inch lift, we've not dragged yet.
Yeah, that's
no, and you get a little thigh workout trying to get up those stairs now. Just like when he brings it home for us to get it ready for a trip, it's like on a little bit of an incline, and the first time I climbed in, I was like, man, I'm gonna have to work out these thigh muscles.
It's a long ways
great.
up there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not short, but it felt like a long way up there.
Right,
But,
because just a few inches matters.
Yeah, a few inches matters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's another good episode title. Oh, we already have that one. We have that.
That was been used.
So I'm doing a little.
Yeah, but they like used things. Remember?
We do like used things. Yeah. We absolutely.
I'm doing a little timeline in my head, and I think I'm right in here in the way you're describing it. Is that so? When we met you guys a few years back at the rally, you were still in the 25 then. So you got the 30 in sometime in 2023 or 2024.
23.
October or September of 23.
Yeah.
Our wedding
anniversary. Yeah,
okay.
We went over and picked it up.
Yeah. So
we were lucky in that the dealer, the gentleman that we bought it from, was buying from that dealer, and they went and picked up this rig and brought it back, and they were giving, they were giving him his new rig from that dealer too. Mm-hmm. So they went down to Texas and brought it home for us
to Indianapolis.
Yeah,
so 4-hour drive versus 16 hours.
That was awesome.
So
we went over on our
that worked
anniversary.
Very convenient.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome. They that's such a neat floor plan, in a Airstream, the bedroom in the front, but you got the separate sleeping in the back, and the it's just a real convenient, unique floor plan. A lot
Ours has
of
the
different
closets on either side of the bed too, which is the master bed, which we really liked. And one thing I didn't realize I liked, but all of our rigs have had, is the bathroom is all contained. I think there's benefits to both layouts where the shower is separate, but so nice to have it back in that corner. And then our son now has that whole corner. As you can imagine, he's no longer built like a 3 or 5 or 8-year-old. He's wearing size 13 shoes, and he's 6'1", right? And he's got his own corner back there.
Yeah.
He can close that curtain, and he sleeps real well, and we can get up and take the dog for a walk. And it's got that nice dinette area. And we've had we can put a lot of people in that rig and hang out, and it's no longer like the prison lineup,
Yeah.
So,
No,
that's really nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
And that bathroom you have is you're right. It's all in one space. So some people might think, oh well, it seems less roomy than having the shower across the hall or whatever. But I will say this: and I don't think they've made any changes since I've seen it last. Is like your shower door is like a pocket door, right? It slides closed.
Right. Right.
Yeah, see, that makes a huge difference instead of having like a swing door like it is out in the hallway, because that door can make you feel just as cramped sometimes as being in a smaller space. So yeah, that's cool. That's a great floor plan.
Yeah. I think there's a big difference too, and every floor plan works for every family a little differently, but for like us, two couples with a couple with a teenager, like that's a little different than like little kids, and so it just offers a little bit more privacy. It's kind of tucked away. We really have appreciated the floor plan, and we've talked about, hey, long term, if we didn't need that bed back there, or we wanted to make it a single bed, we could put a dog cage back there. We could put an office back there. We could do some workout equipment back there. Like it gives us a little extra space for potential. I mean, we wouldn't be Kristen Shane if we weren't thinking about renovations down the road and, making it ours. But
we've got a club member. They have the same trailer.
Yeah. But
they put a washer and dryer in it.
Awesome.
And so we realized that with that length, we got a lot of flexibility depending what we want to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the 25, we made it work, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, when we were at that rally with you guys in Worcester, someone, and it may be the person you're talking about, someone showed us where they had took out the wardrobe and put in a washer and dryer.
Yeah.
Or probably was Judy and Judy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
It was a 30. I know it was a 30-foot flying cloud, but it wasn't a bunk. It was just a regular queen bed in the back, I think.
But they took out that center bar in the wardrobe and put washer and dryer.
Combo.
And we didn't do a washer and dryer, but because of what we saw there with his, Chris did go in and take that center bar out of the wardrobe
Nice.
and readjust
Nice.
that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we made our wardrobe a lot more functional.
Usable. Yeah.
Than
Yeah.
after seeing that guy's setup.
Mhm.
So I've got a burning question I need to ask you. So
Oh no, I'm a little worried.
yeah,
Oh,
okay.
hold on
Kristen will
tight.
take this one.
Shane's already pointing at me like this one's
Yeah.
coming to you. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh boy, here we go.
Have either one of you served any time in prison?
Well, no, but we did spend the weekend in the parking
Well,
lot.
it depends. Voluntarily or
Well, I mean, we can
No.
we need to,
We need to discuss this, right?
dive
Yes.
deep on this, I guess, because it's you've mentioned the prison lineup a couple times, and
Twice now they've talked about that on their couch.
Well,
and
that's
I know
just what that couch felt like.
I know
It all felt like
Yeah.
we're just all in a row looking. It's just hard to have a conversation.
I know
Maybe I need to think of a better analogy.
a reformatory is not quite the same thing as a prison, I guess, but like I know that you have a passion, I guess, for reformatories. So we know about this amazing rally that you did, but share with our listeners a little bit about your the fun you had with putting on a rally recently at a very well-known reformatory.
Yeah. Well, we did this thing this year called the Reformatory Rally. And when I say we, Shane was definitely involved, but we had two other couples here that are part of our NOVA group, which is Northern Ohio Virtual Airstream, which is shout out to our club. They're awesome.
Yeah.
And they're also from Mansfield and friends of ours, Ed and Michelle Newmeyer and Anna Marie and Carl Ferniak. And they're awesome, but we all own Airstreams. We all live in Mansfield. And we have kind of tossed around jokingly, you guys just got to be careful what you say, right? But jokingly, like, wouldn't it be fun to plan a rally in Mansfield? And we talked about even like an urban style. But the main road that's kind of similar to like Worcester's setup is just a huge hill in Mansfield. So I was like, well, that's not going to work. And so we started talking about different ideas. And then we realized that 2024 was the 30th anniversary of the filming of Shawshank Redemption, the film, which was filmed at the Ohio State Reformatory.
Right.
And we thought, wouldn't that be something, And so these other couples and friends of ours are really well connected, and we started making phone calls, and we had to really like get the timing right because they do a lot of Halloween things too. So like October is a no-go for them. Then we were trying to get people in between other rallies and, before they come to, is it the Rally in the Valley or the Swiss Rally?
The Swiss Valley
Rally. Yeah. So there was just a lot of things. Oh, and international. We were trying to get people like maybe in between international. Anyway, long story short, the Ohio State Reformatory agreed to have us out there.
Wow.
And they just don't normally do these sort of things. So so we walked it, parking lot, started brainstorming it. We thought, oh yeah, 20 trailers would be good. That'd be aggressive for a first rally. It wasn't sanctioned. I didn't even know what that meant. Like none of us are necessarily like totally understand the rules or the way things are supposed to work. We basically just planned like a little camping party in Mansfield. So it was really our opportunity to bring together two things that we love, our hometown of Mansfield and Airstreaming and our community, right? And just bring that together. And so we started letting people know about it. We got dates. We started letting people know about it, set up a little registration. And I think the first day it was up, I think we had 25 people register.
Wow.
Like, oh man. And they were all over from the country. Like, yes, we had people from the rally or from our group, our club, but we had people from all over the country. And I started seeing Washington, Texas, Florida, Missouri, like just all these.
That's great.
Colorado, East Coast people. I was just like, wow, what's going on? And so as people were sharing with me how excited they were, and this is my husband's favorite movie, or hey, we had some people that were paranormal. Is that paranormal experts?
Yeah, specialists.
Yeah. So just all kinds of things. But it ended up being, we did a Thursday to Sunday. It was boondocking essentially. But we had great weather. It was a little warm, but we had great weather. And the coolest thing about it was we had a lot of local businesses featured. And so we did a lot of meals together at at the tent and in town. But throughout the day, people left and they went to all these businesses in town. They took pictures of themselves, riding our carousel in town, which is one of the things that kind of kickstarted, what's not renovation, what's the word?
Revitalization.
Yeah, revitalization. Yeah, many, many years ago now. But, they were visiting restaurants and they were going to all kinds of cool things here in town and taking pictures. And so it was just it was a really, really cool experience, and feedback on it was just amazing. But definitely a group effort. It's a really hard thing to plan. And so it took a lot of people to make it happen, but it was fun.
Yeah. So how many rigs did you end up with?
Right around 40.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
40 from all over the country, though.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
And
made a bunch of new friends. It was fun.
Yeah. And you got to you toured the reformatory?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the things that was really neat about it was, so their business hours, and I would encourage anybody that's coming through this area to stop, because you can do a tour. Their hours are 11 to 4. And so at 4:00 they shut down, and they do have some special events there. They'll have concerts and different festivals and that sort of thing, but people don't go inside after 4:00. And we were so blessed that they allowed us to come in. We did tours, we did a ghost hunt, we did 2 movie nights, in areas that you would recognize from Shawshank Redemption.
Wow.
Right. And so these spaces that, and Air Force One, there's other movies.
Yeah. So there's multiple movies that have, parts of the movie filmed there at the prison. Air Force One was one of those. So
yeah, there was a lot.
That was shown on Saturday night.
Yep. Yeah. And we made popcorn and sat in these spaces that are historic and wonderful and awesome. And so it was great. So people got to tour it. That was included in your kind of kiddie fee, was, kind of open access to the reformatory, and could walk around. And if you really wanted to and go meet some of the ghosts, you could do that. So that was an open opportunity for people as well. And some people did go in, in very small pairs, or just a couple of them kind of sat in these rooms and tried to commune with the ghost. I was not so much interested in that part of it.
Do like a seance or something.
Group, and when the group left, I left. So
did you hear any weird sounds or noises while you're in there?
Yes, you do. Yeah. Like it's very famously haunted, so you definitely do hear.
I love it.
Hear and see things. Yeah, there's so many crazy stories.
I bet you have been asked many times, when's the next one?
We were asked literally before this one was over, and I was so exhausted. I was like, so the 3 of us gathered, we sat down and said, hey, what went well? What would we change? We did a survey. Here's the feedback. And we said, no sooner than 5 years. So maybe on the 35th anniversary of the film. It could be an every 5-year thing.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, we definitely have people like, I'm going to be there the next time. So I don't know that we'd have to advertise it a whole lot. So, but if people want to see pictures, I don't post a lot on Instagram or anything, but we set up an account called Wiltstream, WILT stream, like Airstream.
Right.
And there are pictures from the rally out there on Instagram. If anybody wants to see them, you can kind of
check it
there's
out.
Some cool pictures of the prison at night, and
that's
it's
awesome.
Creepy. I mean, it's cool all at the same time.
One of your attendees actually sent us a recording of something that they picked up while they were in one of those rooms trying to talk to ghosts, and I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play it for you right now. Okay, so listen closely.
I'm the ghost of Wally Bynum, and I was in the reformatory when I was a young child. Get out of my house.
Yeah, see? That was scary stuff.
The ghost of Wally Bynum. We didn't hear things quite that clear. You may have had a little enhancement from AI right there.
Maybe. They told me.
Definitely hear things.
They told me it was legitimate. They said, you got to play this on the podcast. I said, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it sounds like an awesome event. And we saw you, the promotion of it. We knew it was you guys doing it, and we wish so much we could have gotten up there, but we just couldn't make the schedule work. Mm-hmm. So we're glad you had fun, and I'm sure it was a blast. And
we'll have to make a point of the next one, though.
Yeah, and those unique kind of Airstream boondocking / outside of the norm camping events. Those are the kind of things we like to do.
They are
anyway.
the best.
They are really
Yes.
so much fun. Yeah.
We like them.
Yeah, it was a blast. It was so much fun. It was just really fun. And I'm honestly, for me, it was like the people that we met, and I'm following them on Facebook now and looking at where they're going and trying to figure out where we can hook up with them next. And one of the planners, Ed and Michelle, they had some friends that came to the event, and now the three of us are going on our very first caravan together in March. Like, I don't know that would have happened had we not had that event. So it's just awesome.
And
it goes to show the Airstream Club and the community.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. It was everybody's connected, obviously, because of Airstream ownership. You're all people are traveling from different points in the country because of either wanting to get together with other Airstreamers, or maybe the draw was the reformatory or the movie. But at the end of the day, it's your guys' passion for your hometown plus Airstream is what caused you to put forth the effort to do that,
put it together.
Absolutely. and unique event. And I'm commend you obviously for the great success. I'm sure it was a blast. So that's awesome.
It was super fun.
Yeah. Good time.
We'll send you the date for 2029 when we get around to it.
There you go. I like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I know that a few of our listeners on here are going to want to hear more about your 50-state accomplishment, and share with us a little bit how that came about. And I know you said something about because of your son, you wanted to make sure he got to all 50 states, but give us a little bit of inspiration there.
So Kristen and I were reflecting, I think it was probably about the same time that we made this decision following the family reunion in Dallas that we traveled to, and then buying that first Toyota RV. But we realized that when we traveled as kids, my family vacation in Florida every year to the same spot. And then Kristen's family, her mom's side, her grandmother was down in Biloxi, Mississippi area. So Kristen, every few years they would always go to Mississippi. But what we really liked was the travel. We enjoyed getting to the destination and being there. But we had all these fond memories of the road trips themselves. And as we started talking about that, and again, this small family unit, three of us, plus the dog in tow, that spawned this idea of, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could get to all 50 states by the time our son's 15 is. And so we even kind of created this, our motto, 50 by 15. And it started, I think, initially saying, okay, he was, I'll call it maybe 4 years old at the time, and said, okay, 15 minus 4, we've got 11 years. What states has he already traveled to? And it's his 50 states.
Yep.
Not
ours. Yep.
Not ours. So we were going back maybe to states that we had traveled to previously, but how do you lay that out? And it started with a notebook and, okay, what are the states he's been to? So what are the ones that we need to get to? So understand the gap, and then say, okay, to make this work, while we're both working full time, he's in school. So that gave us a summer opportunity and usually spring break.
Yeah, usually spring break. Yeah. We laid it out. I mean, we started on paper, but I immediately went to an Excel file because I still have that file.
Yeah.
And we laid out, when are those breaks? What do we need to do? What are the 2 or 3 states? Which ones are super far away that are going to take, a 2-week trip versus a week trip? Spring break being a week. But in the summer we can do a 2-week trip. And we laid them out. We literally just mapped it out and said, in this year, this summer we're going to go to these 3 or 4 states, grouped them together. And really then, so that took a lot of planning. And then as we got closer to those time periods, and we would have made it by 15, we actually made it in his 15th year, but COVID cost us a year. So we were actually supposed to, in 2020, do the Alaskan cruise and all of that, but they canceled it because of COVID. And so we had to recalibrate a little bit, but we had it all mapped out on an Excel file, and when we were doing things, and when we could do the things that were close to us. if we could do it over a long weekend, even. We had a couple of those in there. It's like, okay, if we leave on, Thursday or Friday and we come back on a Monday, we can get to New York. And so we were super thoughtful about it.
Yeah.
And then talked to our club friends too. And like, hey, we're going to New Jersey and New York, and, where should we stay and what should we do? And, really, really, really thoughtful and thorough in that planning piece of it.
That's great.
What we came to figure out is, there's so many places to visit in the United States and within each state. So it's not like we could hit all the major attractions in every state. We would pick, 1-2 places, and it had to plan out in the route going to that next state or the return loop, so to speak. And so it's also led to, we keep now a list, notes that's shared. It's our comeback list, where places we've been that we definitely want to go back to, or maybe it wasn't a state park that we stayed at, but we happened to see it when we were out exploring in that area. And we've jotted that down. So,
or friends tell us about it, friends tell us about places. So we just have a running list. In fact, this summer, because we've done the 50 states, we do want to do some international travel with him as well. But our son is into the aviation and flight. And so we're going to go to Oshkosh to the air show. Wisconsin. Yeah. And then we're going to tag on a repeat trip up to Door County, because we went through there and
we just did a day trip.
Yeah, it was like a day trip, and we're like, oh, this is really cool up here. And so we're going to go back and spend a little bit more time. And then it's interesting is we're like on the flip side of it now, where we're like, hey, where are the places we want to go and kind of establish a little bit more regular pattern to visiting too? We love, the Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina coastline. Like those are places we have really enjoyed vacationing as a couple before we started doing all this traveling. And so now that we've seen a lot of things, yes, we want to go back and continue to travel, but we also want to have some places that feel more comfortable and more like home to us, that we can kind of go on a regular basis too and create some of those patterns. So we just love being on the road and being in the Airstream, both of those things. And then we love coming home. I think that's the other piece of it, is we always love coming home too.
Yeah.
Well, have you taken your son to Kitty Hawk?
We've not done that yet.
Oh,
no.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, you'll have to get him there.
Out on the Outer Banks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How much of the 50 states do you have track of how many states you visited in the Airstream versus other forms of travel?
We've not done that.
I'd have to say, so we know we did Oregon, Washington, and Alaska, Hawaii without
California. Was on our way to one.
Yeah, I would say it's probably somewhere around 35 to 40 in the Airstream, don't you think? If we had to.
So the majority.
The
majority
on that.
Yeah.
We'd have to do some homework and get back to you on that.
But that's cool.
That's all right.
But I'm just getting to a big finality of the conversation with regard to this, and the fact that between owning 3 Airstreams, being very passionate about being part of the Airstream club, your kid growing up inside of one, and then traveling the majority of the United States in an Airstream, your lives have been enhanced by deciding to get one.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just can't even imagine another way. Honestly, I just can't. And I'm such a advocate for the brand. I'm not like super strong on all the history and that sort of thing, but for a while our club was doing this rally at our local dealership, and they would have an open house, and anybody that was looking for an Airstream, we would say like, hey, come on in.
Potential
customers. They would invite them in, and we would have them in. And I can remember walking into the dealership, and they're like, hey, anytime you want a job selling Airstreams. Because I was just, I remember being at Worcester with y'all, and I remember a couple coming in, and they were an older couple, and she said, man, if I could just get him to retire. And he's like, well, just a few more years. And she said, well, I just said that a couple years ago. And I just looked at him and I said, you just don't get more time.
Yeah.
We've been 2 working full-time parents with a lot going on, and aging parents and all the things, but we make time. you know, and you have to
And you
plan
have
it.
to.
Yeah, you
And
have to.
you have to prioritize it, you know, and, but we love it. And anytime I get a chance to tell anybody about traveling the country, just traveling the country in anything, honestly, but traveling the country in Airstream,
Yep.
you got to do
So,
it.
sometimes it's just taking that first step for people, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. Once they take that first step and they get their rig, then it everything starts to flow after that. I think it's just that it's just getting over that first step.
And and just the you know, the whether it's an Airstream or some other brand of RV or whatever, just in general, that there's no way you can see this beautiful country in your lifetime post retirement. I don't think.
No, and there's no way you can see it on vacation 2 weeks out of the year.
Yeah, so doing it the way you guys have done it, and making a focused effort to add that into your family, and then letting the Airstreams be one of your main vehicles to accomplish that is inspirational for sure.
Hey, I just had a good idea.
You did?
I did.
You have those every so often.
Every so often, because I'm sitting here thinking, like, we're talking to them about their experience, but what if we got some of the kids on here and talk to them about their experience? Because think of their son, who's been to all 50 states now.
Oh, yeah.
Who, and if I'm not mistaken, y'all can correct me in just a minute, but who has also done some homeschooling on the road. And, you know, the experience that he's had from the age of, 3-4 years old up to, 16, then, I mean, he has done more than some people who are 80 years old.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So getting kids experience, we'll have to do that sometime.
He's not going to want to talk to a bunch of old people.
That'd be a fun show.
I think that would be great. I think we need to really put that out there and find some families who've been on the road, and let's talk to the kids. Let's get their perspective of not only, living in a trailer on wheels going down the road, but what it has meant to them. But so let's circle back to your son. You have homeschooled him some on the road, is that right?
Well, no. So during COVID, so he's always gone to our local school here, traditional schooling. But during COVID, what happened was we planned a 2-week trip right after Christmas, that we were going to go down to Florida for 2 weeks and then come back. Well, then, COVID happened, all those things. And I started working virtually, and Shane's job could be done remotely. And then Ben's second half of that school year was virtual. It was remote school. So it was traditional school done remotely.
Right.
And so we headed out, went down to Florida and spent our 2 weeks in the destination that we had made. And I'm working, and Ben's going to the clubhouse to do his schooling. And we had a great time. In fact, we had such a good time that I said, "Hey, this is working. Like this is working out." And I know y'all been to Ohio, but I don't know if you've been there in January. It's not really where you want to be.
Right.
But like, if I don't have to spend another January or February here, like I would not be sad about it. So, so Shane was working the phones, and we were blessed that so many of the people who come out of Canada weren't able to, unfortunately for them, but fortunate for us, because there were some openings. And so he booked several other weeks in a row, and so he did school virtually that way though.
That's cool.
That's wonderful.
Well, and it's a great experience to do that outside of the norm, and just realize that you still can, and know that you weren't stuck in a hotel room. You were in your rig, in your Airstream, and made it your own. Yeah.
Yep. And I think the thing that was really neat about that whole experience was, I'm shutting down my laptop, Ben's shutting down his laptop, and we're done working for the day, and we're in a warm climate. We're taking the dog for a walk. We're having our own kind of adventure. We ended up spending 7 weeks on the road. Yeah. And we went down to the Keys for a couple of weeks, and we would
walk the dog in the morning, Cudjoe Key.
Yep.
For 2 weeks. So I think mile marker 23.
Yeah, something like that. 23.
So we were close to Key West, but we would wake up in the morning, walk the dog, catch a sunrise, and looking to the east, and then in the evening walk the dog, and we catch the sunset on the western side
That's
of
awesome.
the
Oh,
key.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, to do that 2 weeks while you're
Yeah.
still.
I'll take that
and
over
try to
Ohio
little bit
snow
of
any day.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
amazing. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. We would try to find the little restaurants and support them and get like
Mhm.
to go food and just do what we could. Just try to do the best with that time. I know that was hard for a lot of people that time, but so we ended up going from a 2 week kind of just vacation to 7 weeks living on the road.
Yeah.
And
And
pretty
I
awesome.
Wonderful.
gotta mention too, of course, this will be a future podcast, but your most recent one that you released, which had the largest Airstream, I guess is maybe how that was
right,
Yes.
titled.
right.
They mentioned the Key West pinks, the shrimp.
Yes.
KW Pinks.
Yeah.
KW, we can confirm because we found those when we were in Cudjoe.
Oh, there you go.
And we brought frozen back with us
We
in our
did.
freezer as well, so they were delicious.
Oh
And
yeah,
some
but do
frozen
you
peanut.
have a chest freezer like they do?
No,
Yeah.
but I told
Okay.
her I said maybe at least a 12-volt in the back of the truck
Yeah.
bed.
So there you go. Yeah.
That's
I
right.
like their idea.
Yeah.
Take your food with you and bring back, wherever you're visiting.
That's
Yeah.
good.
That's great.
That's,
We'll have to tell them.
It's really
Mhm.
it's fun for us to hear a comment like you just made there, Shane, where you've heard one of our episodes and then it's being referenced in another one that
I
we're
love it.
recording. That's really fun. It's we're having a lot of fun with the podcast,
Yeah.
and we also can't thank you guys enough for coming on and being a guest. It's it's been too long since we've had a chance to catch up. And
Yes.
Yeah.
are you planning on going to the international rally this year?
Yes, we have registered for our first one.
Okay,
So
cool.
Yay.
we're real excited. Hoping the timing works out with back to school and all of that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
So
Yeah.
He'll be starting his senior year next year. So that
Oh, wow.
I think it'll be right about that time, but we are officially registered.
Cool.
And
That's
we're
great.
Real
Well-
excited. And we're excited about what you guys are doing with this podcast
Podcast, yeah.
too, just because, so thank you all for, all the time and energy because, like it's so, here it is January in Ohio and I'm listening to these podcasts and hearing people talk about their adventures, and I'm like, let's get that bad boy out of the barn. Let's go. Like
Yeah.
I'm
See, I
ready.
wanna go.
I'm
I
ready
wanna
to
go.
rock and roll.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've got a March trip planned, and we're excited about it.
That's
So,
awesome. That makes us feel good to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. And
I was looking at some of the trips today, rallies that are planned, and I'm like, Chris, can you believe all these rallies that are happening? Let's go. Let's go.
yeah, it'd be nice.
you can come on a caravan with us in March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Oh,
doing
I
our
wish
first
we
one.
could. Yes.
Well, again, thank you guys so much for coming on and chatting with us. And your stories are great. I mean, everything the having 3 Airstreams, the rally you held, the 50 states. It's all inspirational stuff that definitely you can tell comes from your passion for
Mhm.
being an Airstream owner and your sense of adventure, obviously, which comes with that too. So, thank you so much, and we can't wait to see you guys down the road as soon as possible.
Yes. Hopefully
Absolutely.
hopefully it won't be bailing you out of prison though.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. I'll put you down as my first call.
There you
You'll
go.
be my first.
Okay.
Get one phone call. I'm calling Chris and Gina.
There you go.
You're awesome.
Thank you guys.
Thank
We'll
y'all.
talk
Thank
to you
you.
soon.
Thank
See ya.
you. We'll see you
Bye.
down the
Bye-bye.
road. Dang, Chris, I really do wish we hadn't have overlooked that reformatory rally.
Absolutely. That sounded like it was an awesome time.
Yeah, I would love to have been there. It's right up my alley.
Yeah.
You know that.
Listener, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Follow wherever you're listening to your podcast so you'll be notified of new episodes. And be sure to send us messages, send us thoughts, comments, questions to info@therivetedfox.com. Or also, if you want to be a guest on our podcast, send us a message and let us know.
Yeah, come chat with us. It's a lot of fun.
It sure is. Our Patreon page, the Riveted Fox community on Patreon, check it out. It's a great spot to get some behind-the-scenes images of, advance notice of episode titles and what we've got coming up.
We
And-
throw in a lot of special stuff in there every so often.
We sure do,
Mm.
and we appreciate any support you can give us for continuing doing this podcast. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for listening, and we will
See you down the road.